from Kasenda, the part of Uganda.
And Brian from Argo.
The front row done, so you can see the guys behind. Thank you. Thank you. Next. Nice. And the new, what do you call, tubing agent, tubing entrepreneur. I don't forget, yes? Yes, Rose has joined us today for the first time. Thank you so much. You are a twin. Can we be triplets? Okay. Next. Amoti. Okay. You didn't tell us what you do or something special about you? Later. We both have dreads. I always find the difference, yes? Agnes. What do you do? Hair. All right. Student, yes? A teacher like me? Yes? Farmer, nice. That's all. You're not a student, you're not a farmer. What do you do? Yes, makes sense. Yeah.
I'm by the name of Msimenta Esther from MPANGO School of Culture, actress on TV West.
Hey, Nehinda, nice. Yes? We have celebrities here, so you should try to make connections. A whole actress. You know TV West, right? Aboli. Great. At work.
My name is Vasimel Karo. I come from Dukuru. My pet name is Avoli.
Aboli.
My name is Nyakate Stella, student of MPANGO SS. My pet name is Aboki and I'm Mugwerekati.
Mugwerekati.
I'm from MPANGO School of Culture.
Mugwerekati is a clan. When you're a lady, they add the kati. Yes.
My name is Katsina Jennifer. I'm from Mucho, a student of Westville High School.
We didn't hear the last one?
A student of Westville High School. And MPANGO School of Culture.
All right. Tat.
Repeat the introduction.
Yeah, your name and what you do.
Oh.
Yes.
Isidore Kachomia Arali from Charisozi Rock Resort, Chinjojo District, and we are beginning the resort.
Great. Thank you.
Plan
Great, thank you.
about tourism.
All right. Yes?
My name is Teresa Evelyn and I'm from MPANGO School of Culture.
All right. All right.
Hello everyone.
Hello.
My name is Kausingus Maureen. Avoli. I'm Gaia by clan. Tooro by tribe. And I work at Tooro Culture Research and Development. And these are my colleagues from MPANGO School of Culture, Tooro Kingdom. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, please. Dennis, you're going to introduce yourself?
Yeah, after, sorry.
Any guys there who are participants? Thank you so much. And today we are having day 2 of the Ekyooto Hampanga Business Clinics. I am so excited. Hampango. Thank you for the correction. Ekyooto Hampango. And I'm saying it the right way, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. And we're having the second day of the business clinics. Today, our theme is around agriculture. And don't forget that we can always pick something from any sector, right? So I'm not going to spend more time. We already have the panel discussants of this morning. We have Steve and Daniel Chigozi. Thank you for keeping time and for being here. My name is Marie. I'm the day facilitator, and I'm happy to be here. I love young people. I love teaching young people. Those who are here for the first time, the full name is I remember as Marie, and I'm here as the day facilitator of Ekyooto MPANGO. I teach at Macquarie University Business School, and I'm a business designer. We shall learn more about that. We've been working with these young people. Yes, I had a chance to review your ideas. They're exciting. I'm looking forward to how we can actually learn more from today's discussants and see how we can improve what we already have, get into groups, create the next level. So, Dennis, I think you're going to handle the panel, and he's going to introduce himself. We've been working with him all this time. Young people, it's not yet illegal to think, right? It's not yet illegal to do what? So whatever they're telling us, we think through it and get moving. Thank you so much. I would like to, as I hand over to the panel discussant, I really do appreciate our supporters and our sponsors, people who are making sure that this week is successful. Thank you, Talent Africa, for organizing. Thank you, UNDP, BRAC Uganda, Nile Special, all the different sponsors that are putting in money here. Thank you so much. And special thanks to Tooro Kingdom. Hangiriza rukira abasaija. Hangiriza rukira abasaija. No, you can't respond to my hail like that. Hangiriza rukira abasaija. Hangiriza rukira abasaija. Hangiriza rukira abasaija. Thank you so much.
It's very hard to follow that energy, eh? Yeah. Good morning. Muri kurun. None banyeta Dennis Aguma, mpako yange ndi amoti, kushangie mchiga wa kabari. So I'm very happy to see you again. Maybe for the benefit of our panelists, we had these brilliant youths yesterday, and yesterday's theme was mainly about tourism, right? And the vast majority of these guys had hair businesses and things like that. Pretty much exciting. The theme today is going to be more about agriculture. And agriculture has moved on a lot since we first started using the hoe, and people now got into tractors and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that we're going to dig into. For the benefit of those who are watching us online, this is the Ekyooto MPANGO Day 2 about business clinics. Outside, we do have exhibitions taking place, brilliant exhibitions by young people, most of whom are from Tooro. So if anyone, by the way, outside, I know that the space is not very big, but we do have about 5 spaces, which people are welcome to use. So I'm delighted to be moderating today's panel. Dennis Aguma is my name. I'm the executive director for NACE. We do a lot of work supporting young people around enterprise and entrepreneurship. If you guys participated in the Youth Ideathon, does anyone know about the Youth Ideathon? Ever heard of it? Oh, yes. He's one of our facilitators. So, without much further ado, let's introduce our panel. The first gentleman on the right probably needs no introduction. How many of you have seen this guy somewhere? Yeah. I think he goes by the main name, Navio, so those of you will know him. Do you know him for agriculture or for music? Some very good answers for both. I must confess, when I first bumped into him on a panel to discuss agriculture, I was pleasantly surprised. And then I did my research and found out, actually, he's doing a lot of brilliant stuff in agriculture. So I'll let him introduce himself, and perhaps for the benefit of the online audience, a bit briefly about how, the farm that you're working on. Is it an agriculture farm? Is it chickens? Is it coffee? Is it tea? What is it that you're into, Navio?
Okay, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me here today. I go by the name of Daniel Chigozi, also known as some Karapa guy. Don't worry about him today. Also known as Navio. So I want to thank all of you guys for having us here. It's very exciting getting to talk to you guys and hear about, some of your ideas and to see what you guys were up to yesterday. I'm loving the energy. And I'm loving, you know, the fact that you guys have put your foot forward and come here and want to learn and are open to learning. So thank you guys for that. I'm a musician, first and foremost. That's what I'm known for. But I can say that farming is slowly but surely becoming a deep love of mine. Especially in these COVID times, we had no choice but to look to some of the other things that we've been doing over the years and to really concentrate on them. And to really thank God that we had managed to diversify ourselves into something like farming as well, as far as my portfolio is concerned. On my farm, we started out with maize. That was the main target. Got a mill, went through the usual bells and whistles, and hit a snag in the road, found out that that wasn't going to be as profitable as I thought with the channels that I had used to get there. Diversified into coffee, and now, of course, as every Muganda must, matoke, bananas, soya, all of these things are part of our portfolio, and we're moving into honey as well. So, yeah, I'm really glad to, you know, come here and exchange ideas, and you know, with a great team of people as well. Thank you so much, Dennis, as well, for thinking of us, and Steve for being here. Yeah, let's get to it.
Fantastic. I have one very quick question.
Yes.
And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's asking this. How do you move from music, and not the typical music of chiga dance to farming? No,
Yes.
Proper R&B, rapping, hip hop. You
Yes.
know, how do you move from there to farming?
I think when you start out, maybe the first 5-10 years of music, you're in search of something. You're in search of culture, your own identity, the identity where you fit in with the people around you. And that search takes you deeper into culture and a search of self. And I think this same search is kind of what narrowed me down to start looking inwards. As an artist, you're always trying to look out. So, you know, at first I'm like, oh, I wish I could do a launch in Kampala. And then I wish I could do a launch elsewhere. You know, I wish I could be a big regional act. You know, next thing you know, you're at the finale of Big Brother, you know, 300 million people watching, or, you know, you're at the AEA Awards in Malaysia and Thailand, or, you know, so I ended up traveling maybe 30 countries, trying to build up a reputation and a name in music. And all of this experience that I was getting from outside the world kind of made me narrow down and figure out who I was. And one of the common mistakes that we make, I think, as youth in Uganda, is realizing where our power lies. I remember a conversation I was having with someone. He's now actually working for a big label, Rock Nation. And he's a Ugandan, used to play basketball literally down at the local courts. And he's outside the country right now, and I had a conversation with him while I was on my travels. And he was like, yeah, I've got a square mile of land somewhere in Uganda. And I was like, you have a square mile of land? And you're out here, you know? I was like, what are you doing with it? He's like, I'm not really sure what's happening with it. And he's the firstborn son, you know, whether or not he was the fifth-born son, but he's, you know, the heir apparent. But he really has no idea about what he has. And I think it's also very telling of a lot of people who are in the city, Kampala. You know, you talk to a lot of them and like, oh yeah, I have this here, and I have this land here in Bara, and I have this land here. But I think the usage of what we have, we're always so busy looking out, like I was with the music, we don't realize what we have. So this is what kind of ignited my journey to begin searching, what do I have? What plots of land are there? What's this? What have I been left? What can I use? What resources can I possibly put to my benefit? So I think that was maybe the start of it. I had done so much outside that it was time to now start looking inside and my real identity. You know, everyone knew the Navio, but what would have the Ruwama done? You know, 200 years ago, really. You know, when there's no TV and satellites, what would I have been doing? What would the basics have been? And so, yeah, I think that it was the start of my journey. I have land, I must farm.
Fantastic. It's very interesting that we move from Navio to Steve, because you're looking outside, traveling to New York, London, Paris, name it. This guy is on the other side, heading to Uganda. So I would like to introduce Steve Williams. I think it is obvious that he's not a Muchiga from Kabale, looking at his skin.
What? Are you sure?
So it was a Michigan, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not even a Tooro. But your story is very interesting. Tell us, how did you end up in Uganda? What were you doing originally? Because I understand agriculture was not necessarily the first thing you ventured into.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm Steve Williams. A Morty, or Salongo, as I'm now called, as the father of twins. So I came here 2003, just because I loved everything that I read about Uganda. So it was just, it comes on the top of the list of a lot of the tourist books around the world, so that which is great. And after a year in Uganda, I decided to stay. I then spent the next 6 years building a lodge called Chaninka Lodge. But for 2 years, we just trained. So working with guys of your age, we just trained in all the skills needed to build the lodge. We found a lot of the skill sets that we needed wasn't around. So we just started working with the guys and we just set up training programs. We didn't achieve anything towards the final product, but we had some really skilled went to Kampala because there was more opportunities, whereas now I do feel there's a lot more opportunities in Fort Portal than there was then. And then, yeah, with agriculture, I moved into, I think out of a huge need to find money for a charity. So we have a charity called the Chaninka Child Development Centre. Everything around disability, from physiotherapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. We do a lot of special needs training with teachers. We have epilepsy programs. We do a lot around cerebral palsy. There's a huge stigma attached to disability, unfortunately, but it's changing fast. And I think Cabaroli has changed a lot in the last 10 years that we've been working here for the Child Development Centre, which is great. So I needed to find money for that. I needed to find a way to make money to give to the charity, and I didn't understand. Now I can give you advice about startup capital and NGO world and how to connect, and I can give you some names of organisations afterwards. But at the time I didn't, so I did know about farming. I was brought up on a farm in the UK. We used to do dairy farming, we used to do beef farming, sheep farming, and we ended up doing milking sheep, which maybe sounds a bit unusual out here, milking sheep. But anyway, so we decided there wasn't many sheep around, so we did goats. So we started a dairy goat farm. So we now have a herd of dairy goats. We managed to find quite a few within the country, but we also brought in about 25 from South Africa to mix with the genetics and to improve the breeds. And now we make goat's cheese. So our main business is goat's cheese, and we've moved into cow's cheese. We have around 12 products. Most of the products are sold in Kampala, but again, there is a growing market within Fort Portal, which we also want to promote. Yeah, and then since then, we're just run briefly through. We now have a school for children with disabilities, and we've just started a really exciting program. We're going to design and make mobility equipment in Fort Portal, hopefully for the East African market. So wheelchairs, standing frames, sitting frames, but made from local materials, from bamboo, from all the local materials you can get in Fort Portal, and hopefully even not from Kampala, all from within Fort Portal, so that it can be maintained in this environment, built for this environment, and then obviously used by the people here.
Interesting. Two things I picked up from what you're saying is the ethical or charitable element attached to your business, and not very many people actually get into business for that. Very many people get in to make money. You, on the other side, you started by the need to serve, and then you ended up in business. So that's one key observation. The other one was about the use of technology, perhaps, or innovation or creativity in what you're doing. I can tell you, not that I grew up in a farm, but the typical farm, certainly in Kabale, and I'm sure it's the same even here in Tooro, traditionally you had a hoe and land, and that was enough for your matoke to come out. So you needed a lot of land to make money. But what you're saying is that you can use a small piece of land, but become very smart using technology, innovation, and creativity to get more out of the land. Tell us some more about that, because often when you tell people about innovation and creativity, they think of serious equipment and trucks and all. But with global warming, for instance, our land is not going to always be as productive as it has always been, so there is need for people to be creative. What kind of tips would you have for some of these young people that are into agriculture? What would they be doing? Maybe things around irrigation, perhaps, or these greenhouse things that people talk about. What are your thoughts on that, and how would someone go about being creative and innovative on a typical farm in Fort Portal?
Yeah, I think the land issue is the biggest issue that I'm sure a lot of young guys starting into agriculture is the enormous expense of land in the last 5 to 10 years, when I arrived in Uganda, a piece of land was averaging at about 200,000 an acre in this area. It quickly went up to 500,000, and now it's crazy prices. So obviously having family land is hugely beneficial, or acquiring it over a period of time. But what we can do is use that land to its full potential. You know, if you're looking at grazing land, we don't have great pasture land here because of the grasses that are naturally grown here. So we get very few cows per acre on our pastures. There has been a lot of work trying to introduce grasses here, but the local couch grass and all the other grasses take back over those grasses. So what has come up a lot now is zero grazing. Now that's tending to your land like it's a garden, and it has to be looked at like that. It's a lot of work. It's not, you don't just plant and leave it. It's a crop that needs to be tended. But you're going to get at least 12 times more fodder and more grass out of that than you would if it's a pasture. So when someone's got 12 acres, suddenly they can produce 120 acres worth of fodder. That makes a massive difference to your project. Finding the right grasses is not easy, and what grows on this soil. Incidentally, we have a forest foundation, so just for next year, we'll be able to test soil for goats, gives more milk. If it doesn't grow, it doesn't grow. Find the ones that do grow. So we've got about 12, 15 types of grass, and probably 8 types of fodder trees that we grow for the goats. And we've learned how to intercrop them to try to get the best production rate out of it. But it's a lot of trial and error, but you're obviously, again, welcome to come and see the farm and discuss ideas, and we're still learning a lot to what grows, a lot to learn.
Yeah, I think also on that note, some of those strategic partnerships are really good. You know, people that you grew up with in school, you know, someone will have land that they're not using, like the person I talked about. You know, some of those strategic partnerships are things you should always look at. You have the experience, you have the agricultural background. You know, someone is doing as advertising company in Kampala, they have no interest in what's going on here. You do. You can be that strategic partner. Come together, you run it, you manage it. You know, he provides the land, and you create those kind of relationships. So what you don't have, you kind of pull in the right partners to balance yourselves out, and you create a company. That's how companies are created, and some of the strongest ones as well.
To add on to just say it, add on to that, just the partnership. It's a huge problem that we found when we talk to young people, and also is the fact that there's a very fine line, and it's a very important line between competition and partnership. A lot of the people that we think are competition are actually our best partners. They're growing the same industries, we're working in the same areas, marketing is the same. I agree entirely. It's really need to look at, are they really my competition, or can we partner? And then what is your skill set? Can you match it with another skill set?
True. Could not agree more, especially around enterprise and entrepreneurship. I don't want to veer off into digital platforms. If you see a place like Google, where almost everyone throws their stuff, and then you see a place like Apple, slightly closed setup. I'm more of a Google type of strategy where you come together to pool resources. But I wanted to piggyback off the question, the issue that you're talking about, where the networks that you have, the people that are within your circles. One of the things that most of our youths in Uganda get beaten up about or for is their mindsets, their attitude. Everyone talks about our lack of skills and our attitude, you know, the sense of entitlement. And agriculture is the last place you're likely to want to find them because they all want to be in the city and things like that. What kind of message would you want to give, especially the youth, around this issue of mindset? Because going into business, whether it's agriculture, is hard. We can tell you that. Entrepreneurship is not a walk in the park. You have to find the resources. You need to skill up technically. You need to identify a market. It's not easy, but you have to do it nonetheless. So what kind of thoughts would you want to share with these young people around mindset, especially?
I mean, you know, for a lot of people out there, you know, you look at some of the market leaders or the top people in business, you know, let's not even go halfway. You know, people look at Bill Gates, for example, and they'd be like, oh, this guy's at the pinnacle of business, and I want to follow that format. Let me go into town and really follow that format when there's so much to do, you know, in the countryside. And I think people really have to watch out for that, because that same Bill Gates is the same person who has farms that are the biggest supplier to McDonald's. You know, everyone, well, you know, quote unquote, everyone has a side hustle, and everyone has strong companies around what they do. You know, I had maize, I opened a maize mill, I now do maize flour. You know, it's there's a knock-on effect from everything that you do. And I think you have to kind of be aware of that. You can, especially if you don't have so much of the expertise like myself, I can dig, that is for sure. But a lot of the nitty-gritty and the seasons and what you have to use and fertilizers, I'm not amazing at that, so I delegate. But what you can do is use the time apart from that, you know, to really grow the business. Because without marketing, without being able to find markets, you know, for once your product's sorted out, you know, that's an issue. So once you pull someone in and you have that partner who's there running one side of the people, is they have their business in Kampala, but they'll concentrate on their farms. And now, for example, I have a friend of mine actually who he has, his father has a business in Kampala, but the farm has grown and grown and grown over the last 20 years, that now it's his main focus, you know. And I think that's always how it should be. You start small and you start manageable. And that's, I think, the biggest thing about farming, and the most important thing is sustainability, being able to come to life. Things aren't going to grow overnight, but you need to kind of be patient and pace yourself and know that something's going to happen. And this also filters into usage of the land. You know, if you use 100% of your land for one thing and that crop dies, for example, then you've really used all your resources on one thing and the whole crop is dead and you can't. But if you diversify a little bit on the farm as well, you're able to now, oh, this worked, this didn't work, let's try this. This can feed this. I can use, you know, that maize, the husk from the maize to feed the chickens. It's all interconnected.
Circular economy.
Yes, circular economy, and that's all, you know, that's part of what sustainability is. So
maybe we talk for both of you about this sustainability thing. Let's take it to another level. We've recently managed, I wasn't there, but COP26 was happening. Global warming is real, and we see a lot of that in floods, you know, in Bududa, entire landslides, you know, the whole topsoil being washed away. And it's not always going to remain as rainy as it is. But probably things are going to change further down the line unless we do something about it. But it's on the other side, sometimes very hard to operate, at least in the minds of very many people, a sustainable farm with the presumption that it is very expensive to do so, that you'd rather keep doing things the way they have been done. Tell us, how are you dealing with the environmental challenges or sustainability on the farm? I think Navi, you've just mentioned this circular element, but I would love to hear much more. In 10 years, are you going to still be doing what you're doing? Do you have some plans to change that? And for you as well, especially from a global warming perspective, do you see in the last 10 years some obvious changes, and what are you doing to mitigate against those?
yeah, I think it's a step-by-step process. For example, with the coffee, we've just literally been growing and selling. And we have some people that we outsource as well. We outsource for that. But now the next step is the one thing I like about agriculture is that it has been done since the beginning of time. And you always know what the next step is going to be, because you can kind of learn from everything around you, the people around you, panels like this, teaching sessions, online. There's now a new world where you can kind of filter in and really get the information you need. So I think that's part of that sustainability. Also is being very particular about, I think, will help with that. And I can only think of one example. We have a stream that runs between our land and someone else's. And there was a beautiful forest down there, you know, filled with all sorts of, you know, it was pretty big. And the person on the other side just cut down all of their forest, which meant that, you know, the repercussions of that are horrible in terms of the animals in there and the life and what happens to the stream. And it was really bad, and we had to, you know, get on a national level and call in NEMA and everyone and make them replant that. And the change that happened in just the crop and everything, the difference and the change just in those couple of years while that forest was regrowing was amazing. So when you think about sustainability, you really have to think about the bigger picture, what's happening in the environment around you, what you can use. You know, the same boreholes you're putting in and the same water that you're damming, what happens downstream to the villagers that have been using that water. You know, what are you putting in, what plants are you cutting into that water that's going to affect people downstream.
And that leads into, maybe if I could throw something off what you're saying is, I'm a big fan of an ecosystem approach to solving gigantic challenges. You can't deal with this on your own. I mean, if you plant your entire place and you do things ecologically, but no one else around you is doing it, your efforts might be like a small droplet in the ocean. Is that something as part of your sustainability approach? Is that some the benefit of these guys? Would it make sense, for instance, if you have 1 acre of land and she has 1 acre and there's about 10 of you with different acres, does it make sense to come together maybe in a cooperative or circle type of thing to pull resources together to enable it to be more sustainable?
Yeah, first I think just like I came here 2003, I was 25, and the difference since then is just enormous. Just driving to the lodge alone, how many trees have been cut down, what bushes now, agricultural land. When you look out from the lodge, it's really stark how you see the change. Like a lot of it, you know, I think someone said they're from Haragongo, along the Haragongo Road. If you look along there, it's just that those soils have fallen apart. Especially our soils here, so it's not, we are being sustainable for the good of humanity. We want our children to have trees, we want our children to have a good environment, but it's actually better for the crops as well. Many, many crops grow better under shade, the soil lasts longer. It's all good having it great for 2 years with lots of fertilizer, and then after 2 years, you've got no crop. So I think it's that knowledge. Like we have the Chaninka Forest Foundation, which again, people are welcome to come up. So that's where we're planting sort of 30,000, 35,000 trees a season. And remember the sustainability side of it, you can look at it as a profitable side as well. These trees there's nothing wrong with harvesting trees. It's great as long as you keep planting trees. Growing trees that take in much more carbon than old trees. So it's actually better for the environment that we're continually growing new trees. Think about your children's or your grandchildren's education fees. You know, if you plant some hardwood, have a small section of hardwood now in your farm along their hedgerows, you've going to have some serious cash in time they come around to get an education. So it can be sustainable and profitable, I think, and it's got to be. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, we can't be telling people who don't have enough money for their children to buy food, you've got to plant trees to save the environment. Of course, their first port of call is, do I have education fees, do I have school fees, do I have food on the table? So we have to find a way for it to collaborate, or it won't work.
Thank you very much. At this point, let me introduce our third panelist, Wilbur Byamukama. Delighted that you were able to join us. You've missed a significant chunk of what these two gentlemen were talking about. But if you could perhaps introduce yourself, what piece of agriculture you're in, so that at least the audience knows what you're doing.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted...
Yeah, Steve and Navio.
Yes, thank you. I'm Bianca Wilba, and I come from Kasenda in Kabarole. So I practice agriculture as well as value addition, processing juice and wine. So I request my colleague to maybe, for me, I am very more practical.
You came with some juice?
Yes, also I have, but I wanted the one controlling the computer to put me some.
That's the gentleman, right?
Yes, maybe. Yeah, put me the other photos. So that I like being practical.
Okay,
so
I like that. Absolutely.
Yes.
I better move aside so that people can actually see.
Yes. Yeah, some of the youth say that they don't have land for practicing agriculture, but it doesn't need 10 acres or 100 acres, even if you have just a quota, or even if you lease a plot. So the next, yes, so if you have a quota, you can manage to have about 20 bunches of matoke, then you manage to squeeze those matoke and then get juice. Maybe next, after getting juice, you boil, then ferment. In those roko drums, it doesn't need a huge buckets or steam. Then next, then after there you can package using even the hands and jug, not the other machines of 100 millions. Yeah, so as a youth, we have to find a way of penetrating the world. Then here you have already packed your product, ready to get money, to harvest money actually. Yes, from down there in agriculture, then come to the city or Kampala, or parties, graduations, then make money. You can even put your photos for wedding or then you can have a small room. You can even let. Yeah, a small room here is around 50,000 or 40. So that you arrange very well as you are seeing. Then then after you have to clean your stations, you dry them very well, then keep. Don't mix your utensils to the winery or to the store. You have to separate. The wine or the juice should be in a different room, then also the utensils in the other room. The same here, you have to separate. Then we also have challenges as youth, as entrepreneurs. Our road network is very poor, as you know. So here we are doing the government, all the activities to help us on this network. As you see, if you have an order of around 100 acres, you can lose money here. Because you see here, you cannot close the vehicle. So that's the challenge as a youth, as an entrepreneur, the government. We are saying those people who are there, up there, especially the MPs, the LC5, all those that are in capacity to really look into this as far as budgeting is concerned. Then, yes. Done? Okay, thank you very much. That's my introduction.
This is Obugarobi. This is fantastic. And it actually leads into what was going to be my next question to these two gentlemen before you showed up. Every time we talk about enterprise, entrepreneurship, people talk about, I need a lot of money to start. Yes. And Navio alluded to it slightly, this idea of starting small. But if you look at the population demographics of Uganda, very many young people, our population doubles almost every 20 years, and the vast majority of those guys are all running to the cities, and the land is fixed. The Ugandan borders are not going to expand, and the land on which this agriculture is happening is not going to all of a sudden become more productive than it has always been. So it calls for a new way of thinking, new ways of doing things. But one of the other things in entrepreneurship is being frugal, working with the small that you have. So I like seeing what you're doing, but also I like the fact that the way you're doing it, to be innovative and creative. People tend to think that you must have to deploy radical technology. I'm always saying that innovation doesn't have to be radical. It could be incremental, small little things, and you could also tailor it for the local stuff. So I like what you're doing. How did you end up in that space of what forced you to be that creative? Because often it's a problem, it's a challenge, it's an issue. You have a demand that you cannot sustain because your land is fixed and you're forced to think. So how did you end up in that space? Did you attend some course at Harvard University and then they told you must do this? I suspect not. Yeah. But how can we get our young people to start thinking the way you're thinking?
What we need to understand first is that white collar jobs are very scarce. They're not rare.
Maybe you speak louder for the benefit of the...
Yeah, so we need to first understand where you are and the strategy. You have to make your strategy. It doesn't mean that if you are a degree holder, you must sit in the office, then you are paid a very good money. But you can do as well and then practice the agriculture or business. So I thought, and I was helped by one company one organization called KRC took us for exchange visits to Mbarara. Then by then, I had just completed my O-level from here, MPANGO. So I picked interest in agriculture. Then I came back, started practicing in myself. So as I continued, I found that if you start up this small business, you may even earn more than the way we think as youth, that if you don't have a job, you are nowhere. So one bunch, if you get one bunch of matoke, that is profitability analysis now. One bunch of matoke, at this time, it is at 10,000, just 10,000. I don't think that there is a youth that cannot manage to get 10,000. We can even eat 50 a day. So after getting that bunch of matoke, you just squeeze it using even your hands. Abatora walimuno akukozesa ensojo. You can even use the sojo.
Or your feet.
Oh, no, no, the hands, the clean hands. So, and then you just get a bucket. A bucket is at 20,000 also. That is 30. Then you just get a table, put your lemon to make sure that it doesn't go bad. And then you wait for just 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, you just siphon the other residues. The other residues. And then you clean your fermented, already fermented juice. Then siphon. After siphoning, you just start taking. One bunch of matoke, you can get 3 jerrycans of wine. And then if you calculate, in short, if you calculate the firewood, the saucepan, your labor, your time, you find that you have a net profit of 80,000. So 80,000 from one bunch, the one you bought at 10,000. But as you know, we youth, we don't want things that makes us dirty. We need to we need to iron our rather than put on wear, be crazy. But but as you have been seeing here, if I can manage to get in one bunch of matoke 80,000, then times around 10 bunches a day, just a day. Don't sit here in the town, just a day. That's how much now? 800,000. Now, 800,000 a month, you can manage to get 2 million, roughly 2 million a month. You can even ask the chairman, LC5, how much does he earn or she? It's 1.5. Then if you subtract the expenses, going to the burials, what you know, parties that you always invite them to attend, you find is remaining with around 700 or 600. So, to me, it's better than
sitting at a desk somewhere in Kampala. Totally.
Yes.
And I like your practical approach, because agriculture, the one that people talk about, the one that one would want to aspire to, often we complicate things. So I like the fact that you're breaking it down. But I'm going to shoot one question for all the three of you, and I think it will be interesting to see how you approach it based on the different levels of farming that you're at, and also your various experiences. I would love to hear from you, for instance, on a UK farm relative to what he's doing, because there are two clear demarcations. One of the key things is about standards. When you're talking about making omobisi, as we call it in Kigezi, back in Kigezi, being energetic as we are, this thing of waiting for the hands, people actually step in the whole thing, but because of fermentation, I think most of the jams usually die off anyway. Yes. But there's something about standards when you're producing, especially for particular markets. I think you mentioned that your cheese is in supermarkets. You must meet certain standards. If you're talking about enterprise and entrepreneurship, you must brand your products in a certain way. Some of the products that rot or they go bad, you must put like shelf lives and things like that. So how are you managing standards to make sure that that movie that you did today, if I liked it and I come back next in Christmas, that if I buy the next bottle, it's going to taste as well, if not better. So that's question number one. Then the other thing is about, again, in agriculture, and we see a lot of this, especially with the UNDP, the great work that they're doing to support the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, if you're going to export your things to other markets. And this is one of the things I want to encourage each and every one of you and the guys listening in online. I would love to see a Uganda where we're not necessarily producing for this small Ugandan market. The market is now bigger. It's the entire African market. Apparently the biggest market. Forget the Chinese and the Europeans and the Americans. We don't have to wait for our products to be allowed in certain quotas into European markets, for instance. The African market is huge. But to do that successfully, you need to have you need to conform to what they call rules of origin. Your product must be identifiable. They know that this is Tonto from Tooro, and it's authentic. So for instance, how many of you guys know champagne? You know champagne? Do you know what it is? It's essentially sparkling wine. Champagne is just another sparkling wine, but it comes from a place in France called Champagne. So you could have the same sparkling wine, if not better, from Yorkshire or wherever, but you can't call it champagne, because those guys have gone and said, no, ours, for donkeys of years, we've been producing this thing, and it is protected. You can't call yours, like the one you're doing, you can't call it champagne. The rules of origin allow them to charge you the amount of money that they charge because it's champagne. Yet you could get another similar drink for almost half the price. So that rules of origin is very important, and within that rules of origin is something about standards. And without necessarily going to there, here we have the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. So how are you, first and foremost, what are your thoughts on these standards, and what are you doing to maintain them? And maybe if you guys could also respond to the same question in the various ways in which you're able to.
Yes, thank you very much. Please, can you give me the other saucepans? Yeah, the other saucepans, two saucepans.
Okay, as you do the saucepans, maybe Navio, you could respond as we wait for the saucepans to come out.
Yeah, I think UNBS certification, though it is incredibly, it is actually harder to get UNBS certification than, what's it called in the States, USDC? Yeah, to get certification in Uganda for a quality product is actually harder than in the States. So a lot of our products could pass off in the States, but here we have more stringent rules. I'm not sure who, whether it's, I don't know if it's an effect from which market on ours, but it's very hard and time consuming to do it. But once you have that certification, then you know that you have a world standard product. You have something that can be, of course, as soon as you start stepping into coffee and whatnot, everyone has their own standards. But for the most part, most products, anything you're going to package, if you get a UNBS certification, then you can pretty much sell it anywhere, or a lot of places. So that's a very important, and people look to that. People look to those kind of standards bureaus. So I think it's very important to at least aim for that, especially as your business grows. As your business grows and grows, soon you're going to have to be in a tax bracket where you're going to get noticed. And then you're going to have to go backwards and try and get your standards, which means you're putting production on hold for another 9-10 months.
If you don't shut down completely.
Exactly. And in that 9-10 months, did you have enough saved up? So I think it's very important to try and get your certification as you're starting small, so that by the time you blow up and your stuff is all over the region, you're exporting to Kenya, you have that certification already in place. And now it's just a question of time and multiplying what you have. And yeah.
To add on to that, I was going to say, we find the DDA, for agriculture, the Dairy Development Authority, so for dairy products, they sort of work in between the UNBS and dairy. So they're actually much more approachable. Although the UNBS, I say with a lot of these certificates and trying to get it, go to the source. The days of trying to find someone in between and whatnot, you'll find you just running around in circles, when actually, go to the source, the rules and regulations are there, ask them direct, get them to give you the forms. I think there is a lot of a culture here, get a guy to help you. But I think it's becoming more and more now, just go direct to whatever you need and ask them direct. A lot of it's online, which has helped a huge amount. It's not like a big secret how do I get it anymore? At least you can see the procedures. And the website's very good. It is a hassle.
Worthwhile.
Yeah, but a worthwhile one. It took us a long time to get it for all our cheese. But of course, as soon as you start selling supermarkets, they're not going to take your cheese unless you've got the standards.
And now you're a step ahead. You know that you're just starting something. So if you can try and aim for those standards now and start those processes and filling in, it means that by the time you may not even start for the next 3 years, but you already know exactly what you have to do to get that certification. So yeah, start early, start looking at it early, because yeah, we need your product in Zimbabwe, we need it in Uruguay, we need it in Brazil. You know,
Yeah.
Interesting. Have you found the suspense?
I'm very happy that now the President Museveni is now aware of what is going on in the different organizations and the companies or the system of the government. So you find this animal called the UNBS. You find that you have already products, you are audited, you are tested, alkalinity is well, alcoholic over sweetness is all well. But they will, there is a question. The other one, the big ones, to pasteurization. I want to show the pasteurization. You had said, no, those ones are containers. That one, no, you have passed it.
That one?
No. Yes, this one. So you can just put water through here. The water is outside. Then the juice, you pour juice inside, and then you pasteurize. You asked me about the juice, the way we make juice. So we are no longer using hands or
feet.
No, we are using this. You just put your ripened banana and then cross, put fire here, you see, then you cross, then you get your juice without even hands, without using your hands. So, but I was showing you that don't give up. Even if you have not reached at this level, you can as well make your product or your juice and then invest in it.
And just to add on that, yes, there are different standards, you know. If I was to fly to London on the same plane with this gentleman, I'll probably be in economy, someone would be in business, Nadia will probably be in first class, but we'll all get to where we are getting to.
Yes, exactly.
So don't despair. There's always a product for a particular market. I think that's the key message. So I'm mindful that we're running out of time. We started rather late. At this point, I'd like to take some questions from the audience, so it's not a discussion of 4 gentlemen. Yesterday we did better. We had gender balance. Maybe with hindsight, my colleague should have actually, Marie should have moderated this session. But we're where we are. Any questions, preferably from the ladies? Let's start with the ladies first. But remember yesterday, we were telling you that if you never ask, you'll never know. If you never ask, you'll never know. And no question is too silly. You know, some of these questions are very, you think it's a small thing, but when you ask it, it opens up certain things and the universe begins to connect some information in your head. And before you know it, boom. So, question? Okay, let's give the gentleman. Ajay.
Yes, thank you. I'm Michael. My question is going to Mr. Byamkama. He showed us the plantation, banana plantation, and said you need just a small piece of land to start something.
Yes.
And you are producing juice. I don't know if the juice you are producing is only got from the bananas you plant, or you buy others and add on yours. Thank you.
Are you asking because you want to supply him?
No, I'm asking because I want to know.
Okay, yes. I thought you missed an opportunity.
No,
to say
just
that.
want to know. Thank you.
Don't tell everybody what his plan is.
Okay, I think what we should do, let's ask all the questions and
Yes.
get them answered once. So that's one question. Any other question? At last. A lady. Amod.
Sir, my mother has that process you have, but I don't know. She don't know where can pack and that process to sell it. Can you help her?
Achind, you are free to speak Omorotoro.
Yes. Or
if
Chiga.
it makes they are here, Nanguru Nyoro. Nanguru
Yeah,
Chiga
or
Beach,
Nyoro,
yeah?
yeah.
So you are welcome to. Feel free, by the way.
All of us are fluent.
Ekyooto Hampango.
Yes, whatever. To the Ekyooto Hampango.
Yeah.
Must be pretty good, man.
Who is asking?
Ladies,
Yeah, there's one
ate
there.
ekinaba ninkaguzaaho obu okumara juice egikora oyina ebintu bindi ebyokuteekamu kureeta sisikayire. Ekyakabiri esafuriya egi yokweta safuriya ukagitunga mu mulingoti
I beg your pardon.
rundi negura siringizinga.
Esafuriya mukagitungota.
Then ekyakasatu musafuriya omune yakamuramu juice egyo rundi oyina mulingo gundi ngagikamuwa.
On the back of that, do you have like a website or some social media presence, perhaps some videos where all these things happen? Because remember yesterday we talked about social media and how you can use that to grow a market. So it will be interesting to see how can these young people follow up what you're doing. Because I think from what the way they're asking, it appears that the low-level entry, the practicality of what you're doing, they're finding it interesting and they might want some more information. Any other questions?
As we are here to learn, I will request Mr. Michael to repeat the procedures to make that juice and the catalyst he's using.
Okay. I think you meant Wilbur.
that be your tricks of the trade.
I'm called Rose. The only thing I would like to know, thank you, you showed us from the start everything, but I would like to know when you're done with bottling, the way you seal the top, do you use our local card or there is some other machine to seal the bottle? Thank you.
The more these guys are asking these questions, I'm getting interested in checking out this wine.
Hey.
I think it would have been good to have a... Hey, do you have any samples?
Yeah. Good
I,
time as I
Yes.
my question is open to all the panelists. It's actually regarding financing. I am a sad story of, I got excited the first time I went into farming. The first season I made some good money, watermelons. The second season I thought I should go big. But I learned sadly that it's okay to start small. And I went into a loan. I can assure you it went badly. I don't know, according to our panelists, at what stage is it okay to go into such kind of financing? Because we can discuss the rest, but without financing, then we shall have issues.
That's a very good question, and I'll let colleagues talk about it very briefly. But for the entrepreneurs here, it's really very important that you first borrow, but you could have done with a mentor. Do you have like a mentor? If you did, that is it. So if you had had a mentor, they would have probably said, you probably don't need too much money here, just take your time. So I would encourage each and every one of you guys, if you don't have a mentor, someone who is not necessarily older in age, but who is experienced in the area that you are getting interested in or involved in, someone to bounce ideas off even before you follow. Because these loan sharks will give you the money one day, and they will take your land, probably. So I'm not suggesting that don't go for it. No, by all means do. But it would be good to have some kind of mentor. And if you don't have a mentor, find a business incubation center. Like Next Africa, this is what we do. We support young people around enterprise entrepreneurship. The King has set up this youth center. I don't know what actually goes on in there, but from what I understand, those are the kind of places you want to go to and speak to people there, so that you find someone who can give you. It's very sad that a young person hungry and wants to proceed is curtailed. Their future and dream is curtailed by loan sharks. It should not happen. But I'll let my colleagues talk about that as well. One last question. Isidore.
I admire the guy called Kigozi, who is involved in two industries, music and farming. How are you balancing the two industries, and where are you benefiting most? Thank you.
Very good question. Okay, let's first answer this and see how we get on with time. Maybe if I let you go first, because the vast majority were you.
Yes. Thank you very much. First question was from the Meiko. Do I use my own plantation only, or I get also from other neighbors? Yeah, at the moment, I started with my small plantation, but as I continued growing, I started buying from other neighbors. But at the moment, I'm using my own. They are already enough, even more than enough. Even I'm selling to other people. Yes, so another question. Somebody has her mother, you are having wines. So I'm going to I'm going to come to your place and then first visit you, see the sanitation, the do's and don'ts. Do you follow them? And then I will be able to buy, because now I supply in this region. Even I'm now supplying in the Eastern there. Yes, so if I find you are following the do's and don'ts, I will definitely take your wine.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you remember what I said? If you don't ask, you'll never know. If this lady had not asked, the mother would still be doing what they are doing. But now, this could open up an opportunity, you know?
Yes, because there's some women there at Nyakasura, I'm the one who buys their wine. So I get there, 10 jerrycans, 50, just take, then you get your money.
Just remember to pass on my commission, will you?
So another lady said, how can we get those big saucepans? It's just here, they fabricate in Kampala. So I will give you their contacts. If you are interested, then you follow it up.
If I never ask.
Preservative, do we add preservative? Oh yeah, yes, we put lemon juice. That's very important. If you don't have lemon juice, you can use the sodium benzoate so that your product is well preserved. Then how do you seal those bottles? It's actually up to now, I'm still using my local packing. Just boil water. After those bubbles has come out, then you just put that bottle. The other cashew that you have been, the cork. Just put, then remove within seconds. Just put there, leave. Just put, then you will be having somebody to help you. Like I say, mule. So it's just go to market. Doesn't need machines of millions. Don't even buy your candles, because you don't buy even candles, because it is expensive. Just get the usual firewood, then boil water, be put in, you package. Just that.
Robo innovation.
So, I think those are my questions. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah,
maybe
there was one of loans.
Yeah, issue of loan. It's good to be in this viscera. You know viscera? These small groups, as you contribute to one another. Because if you run into the other big banks, you get some challenges, you get some issues. Because for them, even youth loan, it's very difficult for a young entrepreneur to start with youth loan, because they also need a pay of every month. You see, so it's not good. Me, I encourage the younger people, the young coming entrepreneur, to start with VCRA, this small, contributing to each other. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Navio?
Yeah,
two very good questions.
Anything on the loan?
Anything I'd add on the loan, I thought I'd mention is, when we started, we actually joined a group which at the time was called Unreasonable. They're based in Kampala. They're now called Shona. And they are currently looking for 25 young entrepreneurs from Fort Portal to go and do their course. I can give you the details. You can search Sona on the website. The great thing with them is you get mentorship. There's some angel investments, so some money will just be given to you, could be a grant. You might get a partner during the process who will co-invest. Sometimes they'll interest-free loan. But the main advantage of someone like Shona or one of these early entrepreneurial startup programs is the connections. You make so many connections. Like I did it in 2016. I'm still I would say 70% of my connections for the charity work, for the donor money and the startup capital, came from those connections. And that's then led to another one. Just really, any chance you get when you meet someone, get their number down. Any chance at all, you can't believe that how many times, I wish I met someone who knows all about that, and I never got their contact. Keep a diary, and know who you're talking to, and then you can it's networking, just network. Networking is not going to parties and getting drunk, which maybe sometimes it's portrayed as. Networking is thinking about what they really do. Really ask questions. You know, what are they actually doing? And just to emphasize the mindset that we were talking about earlier, like, what a fascinating person. And, you know, getting his hands dirty, getting things done. Like, be proud to be interesting. Don't worry about money. You know, I'll tell you for a fact that, you know, we have 50% of our business comes from Uganda for the lodge. So 50% are basically Ugandans come into the lodge to stay. The ones who have money, who just got money, they are the most boringest people in the world. I won't go into names, but you know the sort of people I mean. It is just a non-start of a conversation. We get lots of young farmers who come to, you know, have their honeymoon. They're fascinating. Just be proud to be interesting. It's much better to die being interested than die being rich. I promise. It really is.
Thank you. Now you've remembered to ask. Okay, we'll give you a chance after Navio has.
A minute.
That is the last question, though. So the other guys, you've missed your opportunity, right?
Okay, so my two questions still on the way. Yeah, we forgot to ask when he was showing us the picture of the bananas. He saw these ones that were okay. There are many types of bananas. And those they were used for specifically alcohol. Yeah?
Yes.
And then there are these that are used as food. Like then which type? Yeah? And then on the thing of preservatives, which amount and like how if I'm going to put in lemon juice, let's say it is 1 jerrycan. How much am I supposed to put, like for preserving?
Otherwise, you might have
not good for wine. It has a lot of alcohol, and it has a lot of residues. You make a loss. It is not profitable, but it can also work. But I advise you to eat. So the lemon juice you can use in 1 jerrycan 20 liters. You can use tablespoonful, 1 tablespoonful, not tea. If you want to use tea, you can use 2 teaspoonful. That's that. Thank you.
Because I get that feeling that yours might be more alcoholic.
Yeah, because we have some small machines that we use to taste. To taste for you, yeah. Or you can pass through these other NGOs to help you. They care around here. They can help to catch up with us, or to facilitate, or if you can manage. Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much. Can I just add on quickly before you round up? I don't want to interrupt, but I can just see the amount of interest in this one industry, you know, which is fascinating. Yes. Yeah. If any of us have any gaps in the market or any industries, so I'm just going to mention 2 things that I'd be very interested in starting that I've looked at but I haven't, which just as other industries is goat meat is the meat of Uganda. Everybody loves goat meat. We have no goat sausages. We can buy an old freezer, you can put a small heating element, and you can make wonderful yogurts. And the best yogurts are actually the ones with very few ingredients. So I'm just thinking, like, we haven't really talked about gaps in the market and other ideas for people to start.
That's really good. And maybe off the back of that, I think you talked about it in terms of finding programs where you can meet people like yourselves. Often the best ideas come from your own personal experiences, you realizing that there's a problem, there's a gap, but sometimes you don't know where to start. So don't be scared to even if go on Google and look up this kind of guys and approach them. You know, yesterday we were saying that as a people, particularly from this region, that we are maybe perhaps laid back and things like that. No, we need to start changing that narrative. We need to start being proactive and approaching. As you can see, all these guys are approachable. Okay, you may have looked at their profiles before, but they are busy offering themselves to support you, all of you guys. So if nothing else, whatever you're going to leave from today, leave with the confidence that no one is too big for you to approach them. And that actually far from what you're fearing, They are so keen to help. Yeah? So I would love that when you go out, don't hesitate to approach them. Love you.
Yeah, just to add on as well on that point is, this may not be the right forum to quote Bruce Lee, but, you know, he says, be water, you know, because water, in anything that it's poured in, it takes that shape. Be adaptable, be ready to change and move. We started with maize, it wasn't profitable, we changed to something else. Now what's profitable is trees, like you talked about. The most profitable things that we have are trees and the eggs. You know, don't be afraid to change and move with what your land is telling you. Your land will let you know. So I also love the fact that you're setting up something to let, you know, to test soil, to let them know what they're planting, if it's actually going to work there, you know, in the first place. And then, Baba, thank you for your question as well. I think it's always a balancing act, and your frame of mind when you're approaching something as different as farming, you know, agriculture and music. But there are things that run through both. And I think you can see with these two gentlemen, it's getting stuck in, getting your hands in the soil and actually being present. And I think that's something that's helped us. As far as with being a musician, I don't like press, I don't like promotion, I don't like branding. I'm not particularly fond of touring. I like performing and I like being in studio doing the music. The rest I have to do because I want to excel. There's going to be a lot of things in the farming process that's going to test your patience, that's going to test everything. If you're in tourism industry, you know, getting customers, finding people to come to your lodge, these are all things that are going to test you. And I feel like being on ground and getting stuck in for the first leg of anything that you do. With agriculture, I got stuck in wholeheartedly. And it's kind of a family motto. My brother went and moved the farm, which is, you know, a few hours out of town, moved there and was there for, you know, almost a year, getting stuck in and getting involved. You know, now that my mom is retired, she has built a house there. So all of us in different ways have all found ways to really get involved and know what's happening there before you're able to delegate. So if you know what the business is about and what you're getting involved in, it doesn't matter what business is across the board. If you know what the business is about, you now know who you need to delegate. And if the person you're interviewing will even be right for what you need them to do. And then you don't need to be there. But if you don't know exactly what the job is about, first of all, soil, fertilizer, watering, the seasons, if you don't know, then how can you expect to actually put someone there, delegate it, and have them work there? And you be able to concentrate on other things, your music and everything else. So I think doing it like the Tooro do, when they do something, their mind is at one with what they're doing, you know. I've noticed it about the culture, so for all of you, just look to your culture and look to your forebears, your forefathers, and, you know, concentrate and get the job done, you know. Joy, joy.
Thank you very much. I think that brings us to nicely, and it's a very good point to end on, that you can dream all you want, but it is action, ultimately. It's your actions. It's your proactivity. One of my favorite books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Who has read that book? Yeah, only one person. I'm sure these guys have read it, so you're not today.
Browsed.
Very good book. What is habit number 1? Habit number 1 is that they are proactive. Highly successful people, they are proactive. But my favorite is habit number 2. They begin with the end in mind. So if you begin to envision this dream that you're trying to create, provided you're proactive and you have a goal, you might fail once or twice, like our brother there has tried. But now he's wiser. Now he knows that he needs to look for these guys, he needs to look for mentors, maybe an incubation center somewhere, all those networks and connections. But until you try, you will never know. Until you ask, you will never know. So on that note, I'd like to end the session and now hand over to Marie Ainembabazi to take us to the next phase. But thank you very much. A huge round of applause to our panel. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to test the wine after this. You guys can stay behind.
Oh. Steve, Daniel, Michael, mwebale muno. Mwebale bakundeza. Tubatolo mungala. Are you thinking? Are you thinking? I don't know I don't know. I really don't know. Like sometimes you guys are always waiting for the Holy Spirit to be in the presence, but if you cannot appreciate the presence of certain people in your lives, I don't even think even if they put you on a billboard, you're going to succeed. Trust me. So